Hi, grade 11, welcome back. In this online session, in this recorded session, you should be able to describe what's meant by word corrosion, describe the conditions required for rusting, and describe how to prevent corrosion, including sacrificial protection. So let's start. If we look around us, you see some materials have been corroded. So the corrosion is defined as the destruction of materials by chemical reactions with the substances that found inside the environment. And we have a lot of different examples of corrosion, and rusting is considered a good example of corrosion. Rusting only applies to iron and alloys made of iron. What's meant by alloys? Alloys, it's formed of melted of different metals mixed together, okay, and used in industry, like melting of gold and copper to form gold-copper alloy that used in making jewelry, also melting iron with steel to make stainless steel alloy that used in making cooking utensils. So the rusting only applies to the iron and to alloys made of iron, okay, such as a steel. You must never use the word rusting when talking about metals other than iron or alloys of iron. In the case of other metals, you should use corroding, okay? So let's start to talk about rusting as a good example of corrosion, okay? So rusting is a corrosion of the iron by the effect of substance found in environment. Iron is a metallic element, and it's considered from intermediate active metal that lies in D block element in modern periodic table. These elements known as transition element, and iron is intermediate active due to its ability to react with the oxygen in the presence of water, okay, and form layer of iron oxide. But this reaction takes time to take place, okay, and not happen immediately. And the iron oxide that formed from the reaction is a red layer. It's considered a red brittle layer that leads to corrosion of iron. So the corrosion, also defined as the process by which metals are slowly broken down by reacting with the substance found in their environment, okay? During the iron rusting, iron oxidized by losing electron and oxygen reduced by gaining electron at the same time. So this means chemical reaction described. The rusting of iron is from oxidation reduction reaction, which known as redox reaction, because oxidation and the reduction happen at the same time and in the same place. So now, what are the conditions required for rusting of iron? Number 1, presence of water. Number 2, presence of iron. Number 3, presence of oxygen. And 2, investigate the oxygen, water, and iron are the necessary factors for iron rusting, okay? We make an experiment. We bring 3 test tubes, tube A, tube B, and tube C. In first test tube, tube A, contain all conditions, water, iron nail, and oxygen, okay? In tube B, the second tube, it contains iron nail and water without oxygen, and this is occurred by boiling water to remove oxygen and adding a layer of oil to stop new oxygen from the air dissolving into it, okay? But the third test tube C, contain iron nail and oxygen without water, and this is occurred by using anhydrous calcium chloride to remove any water vapor from air. And in this case, we know the air known as dry air due to the absence of water vapor. Okay, so we note that only the iron nail found in the first tube, in the tube A, will be rusted, okay, due to the presence of all required conditions for rusting, okay. In corrosion, it's only the surface of the metal that corrodes, because the surface of the metal exposed directly to the substance in the environment as oxygen and water vapor. Now, we will talk about the mechanism of rusting. We will talk about the mechanism of rusting. When the iron is broken or exposed damage, it forms a galvanic cell with water that contain dissolving ions, where a node that represent the negative electrode is going to be iron, cathode represent the positive electrode, it's going to be impurities of carbon in iron, electrolyte, water which contain dissolving ions. So the reaction at anode, the neutral atoms of iron oxidized by losing electrons and change into iron positive ion, okay? And at cathode, the oxygen molecule react with water and the 4 electrons produced from oxidation of iron at anode and form hydroxide negative ion. So what happened? Positive ion and the negative ion attracted together by electrostatic attraction and form iron hydroxide, FeOH by 2. But after that, the iron or the ferrous hydroxide is complete its oxidation by reacting with oxygen, which dissolve in water and changing into ferric hydroxide. This is equation explain what happened in this step. The ferrous hydroxide react with the oxygen in a presence of water and react with water also and produce ferric hydroxide, FeOH by 3. So the net equation of the rusting process 2 neutral atom of iron plus 3 molecules of water and 3/2 oxygen molecule produce 2 molecules of ferric hydroxide, FeOH by 3. And this is net equation explain what happened during oxidation reaction in rusting of iron. Now, how we can prevent iron from rusting? This is method occurred by the preventing of iron rusting occurred by 2 methods, by barrier method and sacrificial methods. What the difference between them? In barrier method, that's occurred by preventing oxygen and water from touching the iron, and this is applied by painting of iron or by oiling or grazing of iron or by electroplating of iron or iron alloys. Painting of iron work well for really big pieces as body shapes, but oiling or grazing of iron necessary if the object has moving parts inside the car and the chain found in bicycle. Electroplating iron and iron alloy using electrolysis electric circuit to cover the iron in a thin layer of another metal. And this metal must be poor active metal like gold, silver, chromium, or platinum. The second method, known as sacrificial method, and that's occurred by adding a more reactive metal to the iron, as aluminium or zinc. So, if the object's exposed to the oxygen, what happens? The more reactive metal will be oxidized instead of iron. And the example that uses both methods together, known as galvanizing, and this is method depending on coating the object with a layer of zinc, which is considered a barrier method because it's forming protective coating layer above the iron, and when zinc gets scratched and the iron gets exposed to the zinc reacts with any oxygen because zinc is more reactive than iron, and this is method known as sacrificial method. Okay? Thank you. Grade 11. and goodbye.